Hey everybody, it's me, DeoGenZ, here with another edition of Pokemon Potential, and I want to make a note that this is a special episode because in this episode we will be training the fully evolved form of a shiny that will be given away at the end of this episode, so stay tuned to see how that unfolds. But what dragon am I referring to other than the original 151's Megaton Dragonite? This poke can fly at Mach speeds and wallop with massive power and formidable defenses. So, you may be wondering, what do you do with a dragon that's so well balanced? Where could it go in the metagame? Is it a tank? Is it a sweeper? Could you possibly make it a wall? Well, I'm going to start out with my bread and butter because personally I'm a hit 'em hard, hit 'em fast kind of guy. So sweeping is my style, and this set will allow you to do that. However, it's important to note the base stat of 80 being its speed. It's not really the best, and of course when comparing to other more notable sweepers, say something like a Scizor or a Weavile, well, rather Weavile's not really sweeping on the same level as Dragonite here, but if we compare the speed stats, it's not as grand. So some options you could do here, although keep in mind the options you choose will drastically alter what moveset you can put on this Dragonite. And let me explain. If you use one of the choice items, be it Band or Scarf, and quite frankly I think you only need to Scarf it if anything because that's the one lacking stat that it has, its attack power is fine. A base of 134 is phenomenal, and that's what lends this poke to be such a grand sweeper in the overall scheme of things. However, that speed, it's your one speed bump, so to speak. So the Scarf, really a good option. Unfortunately, after you equip the Scarf, after you equip any choice item for that matter, so that would be for Band, Spec, Scarf, just for future reference when you're playing metagame, it will lock you into one move. So when you throw your poke on the field, the first move you use, it's like locking yourself into an encore that never ends until you retract that poke back into the ball. Now, the bummer about that is you can't use Dragon Dance or Roost. So I wouldn't even bother with any of the choice items here. I would go with a Lumberry in case of, say, you want to go with more power in place of Dragon Claw, Outrage, because we all know at the end of 2 turns there, you end up getting confused. So, in order to not then self-inflict damage, you will have to have an item like Lumberry to pick it up. Now, Life Orb could give you an extra boost for power, but the problem with the Life Orb is that it uses some of your health, and here's the cool thing about Dragonite. The way that this entire poke works is centered around its ability, Multiscale. And what that does, it's a hidden ability, mind you, but what that does is if the poke is at full health, then it halves damage by 50%. So any damage taken goes to 50% of the actual base power that you're being struck with. So consider the situation of setting up your Dragonite properly here. Discard all ideas of Life Orbs and choice items for a quick, cheap boost to stats, and consider the longer but more successful path of, say, a Lumberry or maybe even Leftovers, because the only way that multiscale will work is if your poke has full health. If Dragonite has, even 1 health point detracted from it, it won't have the multiscale ability activated, and that's unfortunate. However, its move pool adjusts for this properly. It has Roost, and like I said before, Leftovers is a great option to keep getting that little bumps of health, and if you switch out on something that you resist, like a Steel type, or one of many of the other things that Dragon types overall resist, then you will be set to use Dragon Dance while they quickly switch to a Fairy type or an Ice type or something that can face down this fearsome foe that is Dragonite. Because once Dragonite starts going and picking up boosts in the form of Dragon Dance, and if you're not too familiar with that boosting move, it's one of my favorites, it boosts attack, physical attack that is, and speed by 1 stage each. So that is a way that you can recover from that little bump in the road we mentioned before. And the other options you see here are one of many. And again, what I gotta recommend is look at your team, see what you lack, look at the other options I've provided, and see what could be put in place. Now, another cool thing that you could do, sort of a combination I see all the time in metagame, is an extreme speed combination Dragon Claw set. What you can do is, when Dragonite comes onto the field, strike your foe with much force using a Dragon Claw. And although you are a slower poke and you might not necessarily outspeed everything that comes across you, especially with being one of the slower sweepers, however, extreme speed is another one of those things that can circumvent that speed stat. It doesn't boost your speed, it doesn't extremely enhance it in any way. However, it is a damaging move that can be used after Dragon Claw to sometimes, very often, get 2-hit KOs on pokes that are normally resisting your damage. And when I say normally resisting, I mean it was a normal shot. It wasn't not very effective. It wasn't necessarily super effective. It was just normally effective in the range of types, because Extreme Speed is a normal type move. And a little bit of trivia for you, if you didn't know, normal types are not super effective against anything. However, they are great staples to have in the form of these moves. So lots of things to consider when setting up your sweeper here for Dragonite, and it's all really down to the items and moves that you're able to use based upon that. You always want to keep that multi-scale up as much as possible, so Lum Barrier or Leftovers is the thing to do. Life Orb is there for the full-on force of power if you're just feeling reckless. And the good thing is, you can roost it all back up to reactivate multiscale. So let's look at a specifically designed weather-type sweeper that we can alter stats for depending upon your playstyle. So this set is designed to be set up with a weather team, and it takes advantage of Dragonite's special attack move pool, which, you know, alright, 34 base stat-wise less than physical attack, but still a workable kind of set to do would be a Hurricane, Thunder, Dragon Pulse, and Roost type set, and surprisingly, in its other options, it doesn't have much in ways of special attacks. I mean, Dragonite's bread and butter here is truly its physical attacking realm, so you would want to stick to that mainly. But if you're just looking to mess around in metagame and try some new things, perhaps turn your foes off of your strategy and not throw them some common Dragonite that they know how to prepare for, because, let's keep in mind, prediction is at play at all times. So if you can outrun their thoughts of what it might just be attacking them, then you may have the upper hand before they can even change. So what sets this Dragonite apart from the other set that I just mentioned before, aside from its usage of special attacking move pool, is the fact that it requires rain. You'll notice I've not included a rain dance on this set because it honestly would just be a waste of a move slot that could clearly be used for something better. All the moves that I've attached for this poke really should belong on there. Roost, of course, to keep up the multi-scale ability. You'll need Hurricane in the rain, because what this entire set really relies on with rain is the increase in accuracy to launch devastating attacks. Hurricane, believe it or not, is actually a stab move because it's a flying type move. When I was looking at Hurricane, I've honestly never used that move before in metagame because I just never had it. I thought it was, maybe a water type move because the accuracy increased in the rain, but no, turns out to be a flying type, so you get a stab bonus for that. And if you don't know what I mean by stab, it stands for same type attack bonus. So, if you're a flying type, and you're using a flying type move, you get a boost. And that's why it's beneficial to use and include things like Hurricane and Dragon Pulse, staples to what Dragonite needs to do, just based on stab. Other than that, Thunder is another marvelous way to take advantage of a rainstorm because just like Hurricane, it increases the accuracy to 100%. You will hit with Thunder every time. Of course, unless your foe sees it coming and then they switch to a ground type move, but I'll leave that for you to disarm accordingly. On the side of the effort values, it may seem a tad confusing. It may seem rather pointless to some of the more masterful metagame players for me to broadly spread all the effort values in the way that I have. So let me just mention another formulation that might work a little bit more in your favor if you want to be, say, a bulkier Dragonite, less of a sweeper type. Really, I just show this kind of 85, 85, 85 spread 250 to the HP sort of thing, just to see that you can, in fact, almost equally split up the rest of the effort values so that you can have a more balanced Dragonite. So in case you're curious of what some more official community-minded metagame players have hashed out for this poke, I would say 216 towards HP, 64 towards special attack, and 228 towards special defense. And now, just so you know, those stats directly are pulled from Smogon. Not trying to copy direct from anybody, but let's face it, when we're trying to parse out what the max potential for a Pokemon is, it's really key, quite important, that we take note of what the community is doing. Because after all, what is metagame but an amalgamation of dedicated players who want to find out how to make this the most balanced battling experience based on calculations. And that brings us to our final set, where it's not quite a wall, and it's not quite a tank, but over time, with enough boosts and smart prediction, this particular set can be devastating. And the idea here is very similar to set 1, in which you want to preserve your multi-scale ability best you can. And by doing that, by switching out on not very effective moves for Dragonite to be hit with, you will achieve such things. And it's easier to set up a sub. Now, once a sub is set, and ideally your opponent is retracting their poke at this point in fear of what Dragonite will do to them, you re-roost, and your subs can reset again. You'll absolutely need leftovers for this set to work to its max potential. Dragon Claw, Dragon Dance, and Roost are also 3 non-negotiable moves. Dragon Claw is the reliable stab that will not give us any sort of confusion damage, although of course the outrage options still exist. All the other options that were apparent in the first set, which was a physical sweeping type set, that all applies to here. So if you want to be a little bit more reckless, and quite frankly you have the room to do so because of Roost, then you can put it in place of Dragon Claw. But the thing is, I like my pokes to be on their very best performance, because battle can shift at any moment. It's quite surprising the things that some of your opponents, even artificial intelligence opponents, will throw at you. So that's why this subset can be really fun, but you gotta know when to spring it. You gotta know when it's good to set up the sub, but hey, if you've predicted a few things before, shouldn't be too hard now. Same sort of premise, it's just that when you get on the field, instead of using Dragon Dance right away, set up the sub, hide behind it, and re-roost to make sure you can keep resetting. And it's important to keep that multi-scale up, because when you have a substitute up, it's kind of the reason personally I don't use substitute very often, is that if your opponent is wise enough to switch into something that will super effectively strike Dragonite, which chances are he will or she will, then that sub won't really be doing a whole lot of good. It won't stay up as long as you need it to be. If you keep resetting the sub after, say an Ice Beam or a devastating Moonblast every turn, then what's the point of using Substitute? There really is none, because the whole idea is that you hide behind the sub, don't take lots of damage, and keep increasing Dragon Dance so that your physical attack and speed are increasing. Now, I'll just mention, you can mess around with those speed effort values there and physical attack, because as you can see, I've not invested anything in it. I've fully invested in HP to give the max substitute potential, and it's really your call if you want to mix it up a little bit more to fit your style of play. But hey, that is how every one of these series goes. And I thank you for watching Pokemon Potential, and to show my gratitude, I would like to give out a shiny Dratini. Now, I'm going to give out shinies every 10 episodes of Pokemon Potential, and the way that this person has won this shiny Dratini, it has been chosen by random number generator, and it has been tallied based on how many shares people have done on this show. So what that means is that from 1 to 9 before this episode came out, if you shared any of those episodes, each share that you did on an episode got you one more entry into the shiny giveaway. So I would like to congratulate this person, and I say this person because I do not know he or she until I put up the annotation. So congratulations to you. Don't be discouraged if you lost, because hey, there is another chance to win in 10 more episodes. So keep sharing these. I hope to see you next week, and I hope you enjoy your new shiny Dratini, in which you can train into a powerful Dragonite.